Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. We begin with some top news coming from Washington, D.C., from White House. Now, the big breaking news that's coming in. Donald Trump has held a press briefing, and in the press briefing, while talking about offering a deal to Iran, he's also warned Iran that if Iran looks at enriching uranium, he will surely bomb Iran. That's the breaking news at this hour. Trump warns Iran, this at a time when he's also offering Iran a deal. We'll tell you more about the deal between the United States of America and Iran. But even as that was to happen or is going to happen, to questions that were put by reporters on uranium enrichment, the International Energy Agency's reports on Iran and statements on whether if they can enrich uranium or not. President Trump has made it very clear, should Iran enrich uranium or continue to do that America will decide to bomb Iran yet again. So that's the big news that's coming in at this hour. When is this happening? This is happening at a time when President Trump has decided to ensure that there is going to be a thaw in the Israel-Iran conflict after having struck 3 nuclear plants in Iran. Let's listen into what Donald Trump had said exactly.
But if the intelligence reports conclude that Iran can enrich uranium to a level that concerns you, would you consider bombing the country again?
Sure, without question, absolutely.
And have you had any conversations?
Turned out to be unbelievable. But, our incredible flyers and I call them the shots, these guys are unbelievable. Think, from 52,000 feet, they hit the equivalent of a refrigerator door. They actually hit it right in the center, so it's much smaller than that. And just bomb after bomb, going deeper, deeper, blowing up. Incredible, incredible thing.
Well, that's the big news. A statement from Donald Trump warning Iran that should they decide or consider enriching uranium to weapons grade, that America will bomb Iran. This even as there was information that was coming in. President Donald Trump's administration now is considering helping Iran access $30 billion to build a civilian energy producing nuclear program, thereby easing sanctions and releasing billions of dollars in restricted Iranian funds. The discussions mark a massive twist in the diplomatic landscape between the two nations. But this also comes at a time when Donald Trump has already sent those warning signals to Tehran. Here's a report.
We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. And if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move.
After US President Donald Trump's repeated claims of completely obliterating Iran's nuclear sites and thereby foiling any attempt by the Islamic Republican to enrich uranium, details of secret diplomatic efforts to restart talks with Iran are surfacing. The US administration is mulling over helping Iran with $30 billion to build a civilian energy producing nuclear program, besides easing funds and releasing billions of dollars in restricted Iranian funds.
Right now, we're on a diplomatic path with Iran. The president and his team, namely Special Envoy Witkoff, continue to be in communication with the Iranians and especially our Gulf and Arab partners in the region to come to an agreement with Iran.
Details emerged in US media of secret, hours-long meeting between US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Gulf partners at the White House the day America B-2 bombers struck Iranian nuclear sites, Fordo, Isfahan and Natanz.
They've had it. Now, maybe someday in the future we'll want that. But I've asked Marco, do you want to draw, I just asked him the question as we were walking on the stage, do you want to draw up a little agreement for them to sign? Because I think we can get them to sign it.
Prominent shareholders from the US and the Middle East have spoken to the Iranians behind the scenes. Apart from removing some sanctions and allowing Tehran to access the $6 billion currently in foreign bank accounts that is restricted for their free use, another idea likely being considered by the Trump administration is to replace the Fordo nuclear facility with non-enrichment program. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister Sayyid Abbas Araghchi said on Thursday that no arrangement or commitment had been made to resume nuclear negotiations with the United States. In an interview with the state broadcaster IRIB, Araghchi said the possibility of restarting talks was under consideration, but would depend on whether Tehran's national interests were protected.
No agreement has been made to resume negotiations now. I am stating clearly, no agreement has been made, no promise has been made, nor have we talked at all about restraining negotiations. But the fact that we are examining among ourselves what is in the interest of the Iranian people is another discussion. So far, there has been no agreement, no subject for negotiation. Look, we were negotiating with America. Israel destroyed the table. Then we were talking to Europe. The Americans destroyed it. So I say, those who say let's go back to the negotiating table should specify exactly which table they mean and with what specifications.
President Trump has, however, reiterated that Iran cannot be allowed to enrich uranium for building nuclear weapons.
Let me say that I've been saying for 25 years, even as a civilian, you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And that's what happened. It's been obliterated. It would be years before they could ever get going. And I really think it's probably the last thing. They have to recover from a hell of a tough war.
Would you also be demanding that the IAEA have full rights to inspect in Iran?
Or somebody, yeah, or somebody that we respect, including ourselves.
The Iranian parliament has passed a law suspending cooperation with the United Nations nuclear watchdog. Over the past few days, reports have emerged saying that Iran may have moved a whopping of 400 kg of uranium stockpile to a secret location before the US strikes. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, however, dismissed the stockpile claim. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, that's the big story that we're discussing today. On the one hand, President Donald Trump just minutes ago has warned Iran of a bomb attack should they consider uranium enrichment. On the other hand, they're also considering helping Iran in its civilian nuclear program. The big question over here is that appeasement, or are we looking at serious business between the US and Iran? William Wexler, Senior Director, Middle East Program, Atlantic Council, joins me from the United States of America. William, thank you so much for joining us and doing this. The big question over here, again, I ask you, is this appeasement or is this serious business? Does Washington, D.C. mean business when it says it's going to invest in the civilian nuclear program of Tehran?
The talks will eventually begin, and the talks can only end one of three ways. They can end with Iran agreeing to have no domestic enrichment. They can end with, and that would be the Supreme Leader blinking. They can end with Trump blinking and something short of that, or they can end with no agreement. The only answer that leads to a situation where the region is more stable, more secure, and more peaceful is the one in which the Supreme Leader blinks and gives up his asserted right to domestic enrichment. You can still have a domestic nuclear power program right across the Gulf. The UAE has a very good nuclear power program. They do not enrich anything domestically. They just bring it in from elsewhere, all with all of the controls in place. There's nothing to prevent Iran from having that exact same model apply. They just have to decide to do that. If they do, they will get rid of an awful lot of sanctions, a lot of economic benefits for their people, and the regime may find ways to survive given all the disasters that have come its way. If they don't, it's going to be a very difficult road.
Well, that's very interesting that you are pointing to the programs that already exist and that can be replicated in Iran. But in your understanding, in your reading, you've been monitoring very closely what Iran is doing. Do you really think that the Supreme Leader, that the Iranian leadership will blink or come back to the talking table? Because we've heard some very hard positions being taken in Tehran.
I think they are going to have to. The reality is that ever since last April when they made the fateful decision to basically upend 40 plus years of their foreign policy and directly strike Israel. This was not through proxies. This was not a deniable attack. They had always said that they never attack anyone. People attack Iran. They changed. They threw that all out the window. They sent hundreds of projectiles into Israel designed to kill civilians. From that point forward, it has been a strategic disaster for the Iranian regime. And the reality is they are much, much, much weaker as a result of those decisions that were kicked off by decisions they made. It may take them a little while to come to understand that, but that's the reality in front of them. Their ability to project power is markedly lower. In fact, their ability even to control things inside their own populations is likely over time to diminish. If I was an advisor inside the Iranian system, I would advise the supreme leader do the same thing that his predecessor did to end the war with Iraq, where he said he had to drink from the poison chalice and accept this because of Iranian weaknesses. He has to do the same now.
Right. Briefly, William, if you could explain if there are any back channels that are underway for Iran and DC to come to the talking table.
There are a number of channels, some that have been in existence for a long period of time, some that are relatively new. They remember, of course, the United States and Iran were involved in negotiations, some indirect and in some cases even direct with Steve Witkoff. So they have been in contact with. They have those pre-established lines of communication, and then you have all of the Gulf Arab states and other Arab states that have direct diplomatic relations with Tehran and are able to communicate directly. So there's no way that Tehran can't hear the message that they need to have these negotiations. Frankly, they've already won something with the ceasefire being put into effect, but the ceasefire is a unilateral ceasefire at this point. That ceasefire could unravel at any moment. They need to get to the table for their own interests.
Right. William Wexler, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective and that understanding from Washington, D.C. Now we have another guest with us speaking on the same issue, but the Iranian perspective. We got you what Washington, D.C. is thinking, but Mohammad Khatibi joins us. He is a foreign policy analyst. And Mohammad, thank you so much for joining us. This is, again, a $30 billion deal for Iran's civilian nuclear program. I ask you what I asked William. Is this appeasement, or is America trying to push Iran towards the mediating table?
I don't think that anyone is buying this, because when Trump came to office, he started to talk about Iran not having a nuclear bomb and saying that Iran could have some kind of civilian nuclear program. But after 2 or 3 months, he changed his mind and started to prefer what Israeli Prime Minister was preferring: zero enrichment and a Libya-style dismantlement. Iran was on the negotiating table and Israel blew that table up. Now that the US has cooperated with Israel in carrying out operations against Iran, there is no chance that Iran will believe and buy this. And talking about easing sanctions and relieving restrictions on oil sales, I don't think that anyone will buy this, because Iran in 2015 signed a deal, and that deal was blown up by Trump. And I don't think that Trump will get much more than that, because now there is no reason for Iran to continue to abide by nuclear commitments and obligations under international law.
Right. But also, Mohammed, there is an important news that we read about what's happening in Iran. So let's just focus on that as well. The Israel-Iran conflict has ended, but there are massive arrests that are being made within Iran of so-called Israeli spies. How are they really doing it now? What are these operations that are taking place after the US struck Iran rather than before?
There is two important issues here. First, the Iranian security apparatus and military commanders were replaced in just 1 or 2 days, and after that the security apparatus and security forces were able to get the situation under control, and the operations continued as it was before the conflict, and they were able to carry out operations against Israeli spies and Mossad agents across the country. The other important issue here is that Iran, 2 or 3 weeks before the conflict started and Israeli acts of aggression, gained significant amounts of intelligence from the Israel, and also it shared these intelligence reportedly with other entities and allies, and this was a very significant gain and revealed many of Israeli agents inside and outside the country and the operations abroad.
Right. But then again, Mohammed, could there be innocent civilians who are also caught in this entire spy nabbing operation? Because we're talking about a huge number here.
So the possibility of a civilian being arrested as a spy is really, really low. But considering the current tense situation in Iran, there is a small chance that a civilian arrested as a spy, but after 1 or 2 days of questioning and background check, he or she will be released. And the claims that Westerners say that Iran is going to execute everyone who opposes it after this conflict is not true. The sentences that spies get in Iran differ based on their job and what they have done. For example, consider a person, a driver, who just didn't know that he is carrying drones, and the person who is trained abroad and came to Iran to do terrorist operations. The sentences are different, and each sentence can be overruled by the Supreme Court and also upper courts, and this has a really long process.
Right, Mohammad Khatibi, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you keep joining us for all the latest updates from Iran. Now, Israel has closed crossings into northern Gaza, cutting the most direct route for aid to reach hundreds of thousands of people as airstrikes and shelling killed dozens more people in the devastated Palestinian territory. The move to close the crossings will increase diplomatic pressure on Israel as attention shifts from its brief conflict with Iran back to the violence and grave humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
In a latest development, Israel has stopped aid entering from northern Gaza, cutting the most direct route for aid to reach thousands of people at risk of famine. The move comes days after a video showed dozens of masked men armed with rifles and sticks riding on the aid trucks. While Israel accused Hamas of looting the aid truck, Hamas has denied any involvement. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the military to present a plan to prevent Hamas from taking control of aid. Meanwhile, the US State Department has approved $30 million in funding for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
We have approved funding for $30 million to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And we call on other countries to also support the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and its critical work. From day one, we said we are open to creative solutions that securely provide aid to those in Gaza and protects Israel. This support is simply the latest iteration of President Trump's and Secretary Rubio's pursuit of peace in the region.
The US and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which operates aid distribution sites in southern and central Gaza, posted on X that it was the only humanitarian organization permitted to distribute food in Gaza. Displaced Palestinians have been complaining about facing the choice of starving or risking death as they make their way past Israeli forces to reach the distribution points.
I came to take aid, but nothing is left for me. We are living in humiliation. I can't feed my children. Until when will we remain like that? This is not aid. This is terrible in the fact that 30 to 40 people get killed trying to get aid, as if it became the bill price to pay every day. You could survive today, but might be your turn tomorrow, and someone else's. This is a death trap for us. This is not aid. This is the road to death. I don't want to eat if I'll be shot at.
The health ministry in Hamas-controlled Gaza said that hundreds of people have been killed and hundreds more wounded in shooting since the aid centers opened. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights also called for a ceasefire in Gaza and an all-out effort to get humanitarian assistance to Gaza. He also condemned that the US and Israel backed food distribution system for killing people who tried to seek aid.
As of the 25th of June, we have actually 598 reportedly killed in total as a result of them trying to access the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, I mean the distribution points that are installed within Gaza. And I have to say, when it comes, it's heartbreaking to know that people who need humanitarian assistance almost risk their lives in order to get food or material assistance. And it's really extremely distressing to see that militarized humanitarian assistance schemes have emerged. They are not a response. What we need, again, is a ceasefire, release of hostages, and an all-out effort to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
Now, with aid crisis looming in Gaza and world mounting pressure on Netanyahu for halting aid, it will be interesting to see what will Netanyahu's next move will be. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
Breaking news coming in again from White House, where President Donald Trump is holding a press briefing. Trump speaks of US-India trade deal. He says America is going to have a very big trade deal with India, hinting at progress in negotiations. This after having stalled talks because of the tensions in the region. Let's listen into the latest from the US President.
भारत अमेरिका संबंधों
reach a deal where we have the right to go in and trade. Right now it's restricted. You can't walk in there. You can't even think about it. We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen. But as of this moment, we've agreed to that, go into Indian trade. We're going to be trading in China. That's going to come a little bit down the road, but we're going to be trading in China. We have a lot of great things going, and we're getting along with countries, but some will be disappointed because they're going to have to pay tariffs. And we've taken in already hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. India, I think we're going to reach a deal where we have the right to go in and trade. Right now it's restricted. You can't walk in there. You can't even think about it. We're looking to get a full trade barrier dropping, which is unthinkable. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen. But as of this moment, we've agreed to that, go into Indian trade. We're going to be trading in China. That's going to come a little bit down the road, but we're going to be trading in China. We have a lot of great things going, and we're getting along with countries, but some will be disappointed because they're going to have to pay tariffs. And we've taken in already hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs.
Well, that's the big story coming in from Washington, D.C. Trump says that India and U.S. have agreed to zero tariffs. We'll have to wait and see what New Delhi says about it. Shifting focus, Kim Jong-un is more accustomed to overseeing ballistic missile launches and political purges. But this week, the North Korean leader opted for a change of pace with a family visit to a new beach resort, the Vanguard, in a tourism drive that may one day include foreign visitors. Here's a report.
North Korea has opened a new beach resort in the Wonsan-Kalma coastal resort zone, and its leader, Kim Jong-un, who usually brandishes missiles, was seen promoting the holiday destination. According to the state media reports, the Wonsan-Kalma beach resort zone is officially open after nearly 7 years of construction. Kim Jong-un personally cut the ribbon of the resort. Kim was joined by his wife and daughter during the ceremony. Stretched over 5 kilometers along the Kalma Peninsula, the Wonsan-Kalma Coastal Resort features a wide array of amenities, including 54 hotels, indoor and outdoor water parks, a mini golf course, a cinema, shopping centers, multiple restaurants, and 2 video game arcades. Construction of the resort began in early 2018 but was delayed by logistical challenges and with the COVID-19 pandemic. The resort is scheduled to open to North Korea tourists starting from 1st of July. Tourism is one of the few remaining sources of revenue for North Korea, not affected by United Nations sanctions. While it has permitted Russian tourist groups to enter, its capital and many other areas remain off limits to general tourism. In April, however, it hosted a marathon event that included international participants, suggesting that other tourists too might be allowed to enter the country. With Neha Kumari, Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all in this edition of World Today. But before we go, if you thought flying cars were the future, you'll be blown away by what we have for you in this segment. A bold new breakthrough has just taken off quite literally. Here's a report by Cyrus John.
I've always been fascinated by the idea of flying machines. We have already seen flying cars, but what if I told you now we have a flying humanoid? Yes, this is a reality now. Now the name of this humanoid is Iron Cup 3. It's an Italian institute that has made this a reality. Now during the testing, this robot lifted up about 50 centimeters off the ground, which by the way is running on AI. And this robot is around 1 meter tall without the thrusters, by the way, but the technology it's using to levitate is around 22 kilograms, but with the thrusters it's about 70 kilograms. Now the whole concept of having a humanoid flying with the assistance of AI, it is just out of fiction, because we have seen it happening in Hollywood. But how this could change the world? Imagine these humanoids being used in maybe rescue or military. That could be the future of robotics, and the lesser humans are involved in these areas, the better it will be for humanity. But yes, this is a reality now that robots are flying, the tests are being done, and in the future, maybe 5 to 6 years down the line, we might even see commercial robots like these flying with cars. And yes, we are officially in the future, and it just looks very crazy. So what do you think about flying robots? They're here now.